Mr. Sudharshan Pandurang, Design Consultant and Design Educator, Bangalore. We will be exploring the intersection between business management, leadership, and design. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I also welcome our beloved Director Dr. AGV Narayanan, Chief Executive Captain Sendil Kumar, faculty members, students of DJ Academy, and participants from other institutions. Now I request my friend Shanmugapriya to introduce the speaker.
Good morning, everyone. With close to 20 years of work experience, Sudarshan Pandurang is a seasoned design educator and design consultant and has worked in the domains of design education, organizational consulting, behavioral training, content design and strategy, gem and jewelry design and manufacturing. A postgraduate from IIT, Sudarshan also holds a diploma in jewelry design and manufacturing from Indian Diamond Institute, Surat. He has completed a certificate course from National Institute of Design Ahmedabad in Systems Thinking, Creativity and Design Strategy, and the prestigious BLHP course conducted by the Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science. He has consulted with top-ranked leadership in organizations like ITC Infotech, ABN AMRO, Infosys BPO, Hewlett Packard, Deloitte Consulting, Airtel, Vodafone, Union Bank of India, Pan Asia Biotech. His areas of interest are in design thinking, systems thinking, organizational development, capacity building, design leadership, and user experience design. Once again, I welcome you, sir. I request you to take over the session.
Thank you so much. To begin with, I would like to sincerely thank DJME, Professor Dean Narayanan, my good friend Shiraman for helping me out with the logistics. So once again, thank you, Dean sir, and also to DJME for the very interesting opportunity to really delve into this fascinating subject, this very complex subject, interesting subject of, I would say, the intersection between our lives, design, management, and leadership. So with this, I guess let's let's start looking at a few ideas which I've picked up over the years, and of course also begin with for this session. So I'm going to call this as the designed world. So I'm assuming you're going to look at the screen and you will see what I've just been speaking about, an intersection between business, management, leadership, and design. So why I was so fascinated with this is, in a sense, it's also an intersection of the many things I've done over the last 20 years. So I've been in business, I've been in management, I've been in leadership roles, and of course, I've been in design. So it was a very, in a way, a very natural intersection of circles for me to look at it and then also reflect over the last 20 years and then bring it together in a form of a PPT and the discussion, which is what we're going to do in the next few minutes, or I'd say 30 to 40 minutes, 50 minutes maybe. In the last 20 to 25 minutes, we could have it for the question and answer session. So, so the argument here is that we are surrounded with things, people, and ideas. These things, people, and ideas impact our lives. And of course, the things are made by, let's say, engineers and designers and everybody who's into making. Ideas are by various people. And of course, there are important people making a significant mark in a life. So let's kind of look at it one after the other. And like I was telling you, so the impact is on us, even as a user and as a consumer. So to begin with, let's look at a few things which have been around us and also kind of reflect on how they have been impacting us over the last 200 years. What I will be doing is, as I present to you things, in the sense images of certain objects in the next few minutes, I'll also be trying to give you a contrast between then and now, how things were then in the beginning and how things are now. And hopefully, as I start kind of taking you through the various then and nows, I'll also get you to sort of reflect and understand that these are also the various domains of design. So let's begin with locomotive way back in 1924, and also BEST, which eventually became Bombay Electric Suburban Transport Bus back in 1922. I don't have to show you an image of the latest Volvo bus or latest Ashok Leyland bus, but transportation has really evolved. I mean, if you see a quick image of, like you're seeing now, the design locomotive from 1924 to now, you would see an immediate contrast would be the locomotive is very squarish. The edges are very squarish, but now you will see something like the bullet train, which is like a beak of a bird. You know, it would be so streamlined. So that's one clear difference. There is a couple of more images of Autoped, 1922, and also the first scooter in India by Atlanta, 1961. And there are many aspirants to design who would say that I want to get into automobile design. But here is a quick image that industry, management, and designers have been at it since the early part of the 20th century. So if you see the Autoped, which is on your left side, there is a Segway. There's also a Segway which is available now, which is a very modern contraption of, you can something call it as the word personal mobility. So this word personal mobility is a very important word for people in management, people in design, people in urban transport and planning, because how do you get people from one place to the other? Well, you had the Bajaj scooters, you had the Atlanta scooters, you had the Honda Activa and whatnot. But this has been around for quite some time. And but if you look at the modern city which is around us, predominantly we are still traveling more or less the same way. So right from 1960s to even 2010 to 2020, we still travel in the scooter. So that hasn't really changed much. Obviously, a huge scope for entrepreneurs to look at personal mobility. Something like the Autoped, can we start moving again like that, maybe in a safer way? So that's some thought. Then jumping on to radio, which is communications. This image is again from the earlier part of the 20th century, and gramophone again going way back. So how has communications really changed? Well, the radio has retained, the scooter has retained, the diesel engine is still going around. Yes, the shapes have changed. The radios have decreased in size. They're pocket size now, and earlier they used to be desktop size and even larger. Let's look at a few more. Remember, I've used the category things here. I just want to remind everybody that we are looking at things. So diesel engine is still a thing, scooter is still a thing, and the humble nail cutter, which serves such an important purpose today, is also a thing, which again, some designer has designed it to serve a particular function. As you can see, there are 2 or 3 categories of nail cutters here. I also deliberately wanted to have a small poster on the left-hand side, calling it as the gem nail clipper. I just wanted people to even reflect on advertising, because I know many people are from marketing. So you may want to look at how advertising back in the early 1900s is very different as compared to now. So it says the practical, popular pocket manicure. Cuts, cleans, files, trims the nail any desired length, perfect for removing hang nails. So the idea here is, it used to be very literal. I mean, if you think about advertising, for all those people who are fascinated with advertising and marketing, you can see the literal has gone to a very subtle way. Nobody really puts up a poster like this anymore. Nobody, in fact, even advertises nail colors. We don't even see advertising nail cutters anymore, because it is such a taken for granted thing. It is available across the fancy store to right from 20 rupees to 200 rupees to maybe even 500 rupees, depending on what really goes into it. But the point here is, there is an element of design which serves, which we have to keep in mind, that it is serving a function, which just keeps our, like the advertisement says, it cuts, it cleans, it files. So a designer really had to think about, how do you make it useful, how do you make it meaningful, and how do you also make it safe So especially if you've ever cut a nails of a small baby, you would immediately understand how safety is so important. So we are surrounded by things. So this set of slides remind everybody that we are completely surrounded by things. We just take it for granted. We don't reflect on it. We don't think about it so much, but it is nevertheless making a huge impact on our lives. This is the next picture of 1913 refrigerator, and on the right hand side, I don't have to mention the date, but you can see it's very latest. You can see how the function hasn't changed. The function is absolutely the same. It is to keep things cool, but the amount of thought which has really gone into how much to keep things cool, where to keep things so that they remain cool, uh, can I even get water from the refrigerator, how do I access it, is it how much do I have to bend, how much do I have to reach. So all these considerations has really changed from 1913 to probably what you're seeing is 2019 or 2020. So designers, engineers, managers, uh, leaders, entrepreneurs, homemakers, housewives, everybody has gone into it to give feedback and continuously improve the product so that these products start making more and more sense in our lives. So a quick reflection on a fan. And if here you see a 1882 fan by Philip Dale, a quick advertisement also of the fan. You don't see advertisements like this anymore again because obviously the generational difference. But if you actually see, two things haven't changed. One is it hangs from the ceiling, that hasn't changed. The 4 blades or 5 blades, that hasn't changed. But you can see the angle of the blade has changed, and probably not probably, but that's thanks to engineering and the improvements which has gone into it, which gives us much better yield of air as you switch it on. So again, we're thinking about product design here. We're thinking about industrial design. We're also thinking about industrial management, because without industrial management, these products would really hadn't reached the masses. So a lot of management also goes into it, while a lot of design also goes into it. Now, having seen things up till this point, I wanted to bring to you something a little different, probably not so exposed to it if you're in management. That is a cover of a book. Now, this is from 1885, around 1885. The way it's called illustration. What you see over here is an illustration of Huckleberry Finn. And if you compare that with how book covers have changed, now here is one of the latest covers of J.K. Rowling's newer books. You can see the dramatic difference in the way how things are being really projected to the markets. So one is illustration style, and the second is usage of photography and more modern colors, and also different sensibilities which are being reached out. So I'm using multiple set of words here with you in this discussion. One is sensibilities, one is impact, one is the third one is things, and all these really a designer really has to keep in mind when he or she really designs a product, or when he or she really designs a book cover, or when maybe in this case, he designed the locomotive. So a locomotive was originally designed to take people from point A to point B in a very smooth manner. Similarly, a book cover is designed to give an understanding of what the book is really about. But then there is also a famous saying that don't judge the book by the cover. But then the designer's role is also important, because the designer's role is to get people to think or judge the book by the cover so that they judge right, and hopefully they judge well and they buy the book. So those are some things which you should keep in mind and make a note of also, that what's the role of a designer. It's not just superficial, it's deep. It's hands in hands with the engineer and the manager. So coming on, so now we looked at product design. So we looked at locomotives, we looked at fans, we looked at refrigerators. Let's start looking at, and we of course looked at the book cover, which is communication design. Let's look at the third aspect of design, which is called interaction design. So as you are an aspiring manager, as you are a growing manager, maybe you're already a manager and just taking this course, in whatever capacity you are, you would probably be interacting with broadly these domains of design. Now I'm showing you two sets of computers, Macintosh back in 1984 and the 2019 Apple iMac. Just like how the fan got streamlined, excuse me, just like how the locomotive got streamlined, just like how the refrigerator has also got streamlined, so has your desktop computer. That has also got streamlined. So what do I mean by streamlined? You can see the smooth edges. You can see the uniformity in the neutral colors. And you can see even the small icons which are at the bottom, which are very minimal. So I'm actually talking about a particular philosophy in design here, which is the word minimal here, minimal. For example, management also goes through various, just like how design goes through various phases, like less is more. Management will also go through various phases of what you can call design movements. You can also call it as management movements. So for example, early in the 1970s and 80s, people would say it's all about shareholder value. So how do I give maximum money return back to the shareholder? And then after some years, they would say the founders or the investors or the primary founders should get the value. And now we are in the stage where we are saying employees should get a lot of value. And now also we are also evolving into a stage where saying that it's not just the shareholder, not just the employee, it's not just, but also society on the whole should get value. So just like how management goes through various phases, so has design, and that has impacted design as you can see on your screen. So less is more, or minimal is what I'm talking about. And with the advance of technology, Apple in this case has been able to really integrate that into their design. It's not just design, but also technology has enabled them to compress it and make it more efficient. So I'm taking another aspect of interaction design. You can see Windows, the very old fashioned Windows which used to be there. And now that same Windows has got compressed onto a mobile screen. So this is now the domain of what is being called as, it started off with human computer, actually it started off with human machine interaction. And then it went on to human computer interaction. And then it went on to what is called user interface and user experience, which is popularly called as UI and UX. So as aspiring managers and leaders, you should really know what I'm talking about, which is you can see how the user interface has changed from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, which gives you a better experience, because with the mobile in the hand, now you can access the world, which means you click on it and it is even sound enabled. It is, you can even search. If there is an image of an animal, you can click on it and Google will tell you what species that animal belongs to, what plant that animal belongs to. So the advances in internet and the advances in technology and the progress in design has made it extremely efficient in terms of user experience. But there is a long way to go. We all struggle with that. And that's the job of an interaction designer, to make things better. So I hope this category of things which I had presented to you earlier makes sense. We looked at right from locomotives to book covers to computer screens. They're all things, and they're all making certain kinds of impact on our lives. And we know that now more than ever, because we know what has happened because a Boeing is not able to take off. We know what has happened when metro trains are not working. We know what happens when internet is being blocked. We know what happens when books are being banned. So the point here is the impact of things. We understand that now in this coronavirus situation, where when we don't get access to things, we also understand it very importantly. So very quickly moving on to another aspect of design, which sometimes get overlooked, is also textile design. I just wanted to bring you again a historical perspective here. From your left, you'll see a Stone Age, and then you'll see a very modern way of dressing to extremely modern in the sense of highly functional, but it has gone from functional to functional and stylish. So what I mean here is the astronaut suit is meant to do both. It's very functional. Of course, without being functional, an astronaut will just die in space, but they're also trying to make it stylish if we can compare both the astronaut suit on both the sides. So textile design, communication design, interaction design, product design is what I've really tried to explain you uh, under the category of a designed world. So I want to move on to the next aspect, going from things to people, because without people, none of this would have been possible. People are really what, who go on to really make things and create an impact. But it's not just the designers which creates a movement. Ideas also create a very important movement, and it is the ideas in people really makes a difference. So I just want to take through very quickly, not spending too much time on this, the kind of range of people across the screen here. Somebody like Sachin Tendulkar, who kind of really invigorates a generation of sports enthusiasts. Somebody like a Bill Gates, who aspires to put a PC on every home. Somebody like Gandhi ji here, who creates a movement with just a pinch of salt. It's just an idea. And a woman leader like Indira Gandhi, who inspires generation of women to become leaders. Indira Nui in the corporate context, again, inspires a generation of women who can rise up the ladder. And people like Nelson Mandela shows Black people can create strong movements and have created strong movements, and that's how they create the impact. So here is a live example or examples of people with ideas who have changed the world. And these ideas go on to become products, like in the case of Bill Gates. These ideas can also translate to products like Pepsi moving on to more healthy drinks. That's a transformation, going from carbonated drinks to healthy drinks. Ideas like freedom, which is just a metaphorical idea, which is a very abstract idea, can become a very realistic idea, as in the case of Nelson Mandela and Gandhi. And ideas like middle class rising up to the topmost level, like how Sachin Tendulkar really shows. So ideas is what really makes a difference. A few more things of intersection between ideas and products. Okay, maybe I'm going very fast. This is not a real-time class to get a feedback from you. I just want to pause for just a microsecond and tell you that things also represent amazing ideas. So on the top left of your screen, you can see a voting ballot. It's a product, it's a thing, but it's also an idea. It's not just an idea of efficiency, but it's an idea of democracy. So democracy is the freedom to choose whom you want as a leader. So through that product, through that machine, through that object, you can just take your finger and press on that button, and you can choose a leader. You can choose whose beliefs you are represented by. So that's an amazing intersection between an idea and a product. And remember, not many countries on this planet has that particular object, has that particular idea. Not many people have that privilege, but we in India are very privileged. The image next to that are people raising hands. That's a peaceful protest. That's an idea. That's a act. That's a decision to raise the hand that we stand for this. Next to that is an image of a woman with an image with a bindi on a forehead. That's an idea. That's a product. Again, it stands for something. Below that, you will see people standing in water. That's the idea. That was a Satyagraha movement. That is to say that we are not going to pay taxes on salt. That is what changed the course of history. And then again, on the left-hand side, there's an image. That's not a product, but it's an image. But that talks about an idea. So all these are ideas, but they're very profound. And that has, again, a huge impact on our lives. So we have seen three things, friends. One are things which have an impact, ideas which have impact, people which are impact. So that becomes an interesting point to ask the question that what is really design? What is really design? Is it a plan? or is it just something to get a few things done? So I'm going to show you a few images uh, from a compilation made by Ishan Khosla, and he takes us through how people in everyday lives are also designers. Just give me a second. So here is a compilation of how, uh, just to argue that we are all designers. One is that the next set of images will tell you that. Second is how is how is everyday design different from corporate design? We'll come to that. But let's just look at this. Uh, a couple of images here. Construct, deconstruct, and construct. That's the topic. That's the next set of slides which I'm going to take you under the topic. Spontaneous design. So spontaneous design is something like you go to a guest's house and then say guest asks, so do you want to eat? What would you like to eat? You know, let's say chaat, and then they just go up, mix up a few things, quickly make up something, and then give you chaat, or they make you a quick omelette, or they could give you maybe a dosa. So a spontaneous mix of things to put it on a plate and give it to you serves a particular function. And there was an experiment done, and that experiment is at the bottom of the screen, bottom left. It is called porosity kabaddi. Porosity kabaddi was an experiment done between designers and also people out in the street. So these are people, and actually these people are from a place called as Dharavi, and that's in Bombay. So designers and these people who do these everyday things, they were interacting, and designers trying to figure out how do these people really make their innovations. So how do these everyday things like chair, uh, everyday things like a chair or a stool really gets manipulated into something useful. So is this design? Well, I would say it is an attempt to design. I wouldn't say this is design, but it's an attempt to design. Here is another adaptation. You can see the person just needs to sit. So he's going to put 2 plus 2, 2 and 2 together, and he's going to create a stool. If the stool is wobbly, he's just going to put it together and quickly adapt it and make it strong enough. And the person on your right has made a sort of back seat for himself, because probably his job involves long hours of sitting and he just needs to have a backrest. So it's done by a classical case of recycling. So take the products which are around you, take the things which are around you, and that can serve a particular function. In this case, a function of really sitting. What happens when a leg is broken? Well, don't worry too much. Let me just take a bottle, invert it, and luckily the bottle's height and the leg's height is almost the same. So the chair is not going to be inclined and it's not going to fall off. So in popular terms, the word is also called jugaad, Jugaad, jugaad. Many designers sort of cringe in the sense they don't like this word jugaad, but many designers have also learned to embrace it and then try to learn from it. And that's exactly what this experiment is about. That how do you do quick on the spot innovations? So the word innovations, I'm just bringing the word innovation here because we talk about that so much in the management world. All these are nothing but quick on the spot innovations. You really can't call them as robust, durable, aesthetic innovations, but nevertheless you can call it interesting innovations which really serve a particular function. So here is one more. What do you do with an old oil can? Well, you got a chair with a broken leg. Just kind of push it underneath that, and there you go. Nobody's even going to question you because you're in that particular context. So context is they're not sitting in Cuff Parade in Bombay. They're going to be sitting in Dharavi. So that really works for that context. So context is innovation in a certain context is a very important word for us here, because as managers, we need to understand that innovation is always, or rather generally is, context driven. So you have to keep the context in mind when you're thinking about innovation. You just can't be innovating without understanding the context. So here are some key words which really emerge from some of the images we have seen. You can mend things, you can rehabilitate things, you can restore things, salvage things, appendage things, repair things, disrepair things. So all these are, I would say, kind of jargon of jugaad, if you want to call it that. So if you want to understand the jargon of Jugaad, think about this. So how do you mend? So it's a mend a pencil. It's a sharpen a pencil. As children you would have heard, can you mend my pencil? That's nothing but sharpening. Rehabilitate. Rehabilitate is well, I mean, people talk about drug rehabilitation, but in this case, it's about rehabilitation of objects. It's of things. Restoration. Again, it's a very important word. How do you restore? How do you salvage? Salvage is how do you finally make use of something? So all these are important terminologies when you're trying to understand the Jugaad style of innovation in that case. Now here is one. I want to show you a couple of contrasts between a quick on-the-spot fixing innovation. So here is a lifeguard. I don't know which country this person is from. I'm assuming maybe from India because Ishan Khosla has done the India-based study. So this person is a lifeguard. He's on the beach, but he also needs to sit. He needs to sit because it could be long hours and nobody's on the beach. There needs to be a shade, but also he needs to sit at a height. So he needs a stool. He also needs a backrest, right? So maybe he needs to take a nap at some point. So he has a very nice cover to his seat. So let's see a quick contrast of how a lifeguard's contraption could really look like. So now this also serves pretty much the same function. You can see that it's at a height similar to a stool, and it also overlooks like how a stool does. It gives a person a place to sit. So the designer, this person is also a designer. If you're seeing the screen with this quick adaptation, this person is also a designer. But you can see the detailing. You can see the detailing difference which has gone into both the products. In this case, you can also say that the designer has gone on to give it importance to the aesthetics part of it, giving it sort of balance, giving it repetition if you want. There is a nice kind of fence kind of ornament where the person sits, and giving it a proper roof. So that's an aspect of a designer where they can say that let me make a product which is good, let me make a contraption which is good but also useful, good looking and useful. So finally, let us ask this question to ourselves: what is design? I'm just leaving the words a plan. In the case of a stool, there was still a plan to put a bottle under the stool or bottle under the chair, and there was still a plan. And there was still a plan even when somebody made this lifeguard stand. In both the cases, they are design. It is just that the contexts are different and the need for innovation is different. So I'm not going to give you a textbook definition of design. I'm just going to leave some of these thoughts with you because it is worth exploring. You should go and explore the idea of what is design. You should go and explore what does design mean to a manager. You should go and explore what a design means to a leader. So these are the explorations which you should do. But I wanted to leave a few visuals in your mind and make you think about how design can be perceived. So now let's move on to organizations, which I would say is very design-led. Businesses are about people. Businesses are about products. It's about services. It's about turnover. It's about bottom line, right? It's about value. And it's about taking value to the customer, making the customer happy, and the customer comes back to the business, and then the cycle continues. So what's the role of design in a business? I thought, why not take some organizations which are led from a design-centric perspective. Let me put it this way, organizations which are led by designers, and then see if there are any insights for us to think about. That's the idea. So Vikalp is one such organization. It's, I would say, I'm going to use the word in this case, an audience-centric communication strategy-based organization. So what do I mean by that? But just moving on very quickly to the part that we've been looking at things up till now. Till now, we also looked at people, we looked at ideas, we looked at the concept of Jugaad, we looked at innovation. And now I want to bring to you the idea of an organization which has design concepts. Okay, here is it. So banyan tree. Okay, so I'm going to show you a sketch of a banyan tree. But this is not a sketch made by somebody from an urban area. This is a sketch which is made by somebody from a rural area. But why is that important? I mean, you may be asking that, why is Sudarshan showing me a
Hello, Sudarshan sir, are you there? You're not audible.
Can you call him and find out?
I'll just check it out.
Yeah,
Please.
I think, is it
Yeah.
back?
Yeah, it's back. It's
Yeah,
back.
you are back.
Yeah. So there was a brief disruption, and
Right.
was that the only disruption? That was just one, right?
Yeah.
That's
This
it.
is the one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I need to share my screen, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So,
Sir, you can go to slide modes.
right. Is it okay now?
It's okay, fine.
Perfect. So this is a classic example of disruption and technological disruption, which has just happened, but it's not disruption from an innovation point. It's a disruption from breakdown. So we've just experienced a breakdown, but we are back. But that's what is also happening in the Corona situation, right? So that's the disruption which we're facing. But let's coming back quickly to Vikalp, coming back quickly to the idea of a sketch. So remember, I've talked about this being an audience-centered communication strategy. Generally, we make an assumption that if I say, let's say the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan campaign done by the government, okay, and the government says, no open defecation, keep washing your hands, cover your pots cover your water pots so that the flies don't go into it, etc., etc., etc. But what if I tell a person from the rural area saying that, okay, friends and people, don't cover your pots, or rather cover your pots. So how do I communicate? How do I communicate this visually? So what if I draw a pot and then I put two crosses on it? Let's say I take two crosses and then I just strike it out, right? So let's say if I take a pot, and if you're able to see this, I'll just take a pot, and if I just strike it out, and the typical, I hope you're able to see it. So the typical perception is that we will say, oh, okay, don't keep the pots open, keep it covered. But Vikalp has understood that problem. Vikalp as an organization has really understood its audience very well, because Vikalp deals with a rural audience, and it also understands visual perception very well. So when I draw a pot with two crosses against it, some of the rural folk interpreted that as two sticks kept in front of a pot. So what we perceive it as no, they just thought, oh, there are just two sticks in front of a pot. So when you have a communication like that, when millions of rupees are being spent on posters, on printing it, on logistics, on sending people across from Jammu to Kanyakumari, putting these up, and if you have not understood your audience, you have just spent, or you've just wasted millions of rupees, and you have miscommunicated an idea, and you have also not stopped the spread of a disease, right? So you've just failed as an organization to do that. But Vikalp has understood that over a period of research, over a period of years of research, and they figured out, so how did really rural folk perceive things is what Vikalp really does. So banyan tree, generally what we get trained in as managers, as leaders, as designers, as entrepreneurs, as whatever, right? So we generally get trained in what we see. But that's slightly different for rural folk. It could be about what one knows. So there's an element of knowledge coming here, and generally not element of what we see. So for example, if you ask, let's say a typical city going child to draw a tree. So the child may draw something like this, may draw something like this. But it has been known that when rural folk think about a tree, they don't just think of a tree as in starting off from the road level. They think of it from the roots. So it's about what they know. They know that trees emerge from the roots. So the knowledge is uh, it is a intangible knowledge which they have, which gets expressed in their drawing. But if I were to ask to draw a tree, I may just draw it from the root level. Why is that? It's not that I'm ignorant about the fact that it has a root. Yes, I do know it has a root, but I have probably never grown a tree. Maybe I've never pulled a tree apart, a dead tree apart. Maybe I've never planted a sapling. So their knowledge goes deeper, their knowledge goes differently from the way we do. So let's say drawing a cot. So I want to just, like how in the case of a banyan tree, I was trying to tell you, drawing what one sees versus drawing what one knows. In the case of drawing a cot as in a bed or a cot, that's what I'm talking about. We may tend to complicate the message. So, but in the case of rural folk, the interpretation of a cot could be something very literal. In the sense, we may draw a cot with just the top view, but for the rural folk, they may draw with the legs, with where even the bush goes, and then the outline. So it's a combination of how both the things go together. So it's an entire holistic sense which goes into it. Let's say drawing a hand pump. So what did Vikalp learn when they understood multiple perspectives? So it's not just the hand pump, it's also the drainage around the hand pump which goes into the drawing of the hand pump, because for them that has been very important. And also stories are so important for a rural audience. So how do you weave a story? So I would like you to guess for about 30 seconds, maybe not in 30 seconds, might be too long in a webinar kind of scenario. Let's about 5 seconds, what this visual is about. I'm just going to pause for 5 seconds, beginning now. So you may have given it a thought that there are these undulations or curves on the top. Then there are these people, some kind of caricature there. And then below, there is somebody with some kind of a flag. And at the bottom right, you will see there's a circular form and there's a person in the center there. So this particular, it's actually a folk movement. It's a movement which happened. I would say it was probably synonymously in the time of something called as the Chipko movement. The Chipko movement were when people were trying to save trees. So the rural folk were trying to save their trees. So it talks about how people from the outside came and started invading their hills and forests, and how women reached out to each other. That's just below. And at the bottom, you will see going against the person who was trying to cut down trees. And at the bottom right, you will see forming a unit, forming a movement, hugging the tree and getting these people to not chop down the trees. So just coming back to this particular point, that a movement is represented in the form of a story. So Vikalp has understood that rural folk interpret images in a particular way. So going back to the tagline below Vikalp, if you remember the tagline, I don't know if you remember it or not, it said Vikalp, and below that it said user-centered communication strategy. Let me see if I was right in that. Sorry, not user, but audience-centered communication strategy. So now a quick moment before we go on to the next organization, and I just want you to think about, why is that so important? Why is it so critical? I just want you to think about it for a few seconds. From a manager's perspective, why is it so critical to think about being audience-centric when we are having a communication strategy? Sampriti? So the manager's, let me just leave it on this. The manager's role is, what's the role of a manager? Think about it very quickly. It's to get things done. What's the role of a leader? It's to inspire people towards their goals. So what's the role of a leader and a manager? Because you can't really differentiate both. It's to get people excited about reaching their goals, but also be on their tasks. But what if, as a manager and as a leader, if I don't know how to strategize my communication, if I don't know how to reach out to my audience, will that make sense? Will that reach out to an audience effectively? Will they disconnect with me? That's going to be high probability, and that's exactly what you see in so many organizations. And it's also related to the human condition. It's just that it's just very difficult for people to think from the other person's perspective. To be empathetic, while it is natural for a human being, it still takes effort, because much of a conditioning is against empathy. So empathy is again a very important word when it comes to designers, thinking from the other person's point of view. Empathy is again a very important word for a manager. Empathy is again a very important word for a leader, because without empathy, you will never really know what the other person is thinking. Without empathy, you will really never know how to center your communication towards the particular audience. So that becomes very critical. So I hope I have made sense through this. I hope with the contrast of urban and rural, I am trying to make sense that as a manager and as a leader, we really need to know whom we are communicating with, whether even if it's our boss or if it's our reportee, we still need to center our communication strategy in a particular way so that they relate with it. Otherwise, it will be like two sticks in front of a pot. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on to, this is some more visuals just to quickly tell you. The visual on your left is a drawing by a girl. And this is not some India tourism ad where they're saying, oh, people walk with a lot of pots around. It's a girl suffering that she walks for about 8 kilometers to get water from her house, from the well to the house. And the next one, the middle image is about a marriage. So it's about the sanctity of a marriage. It's also the aesthetics which goes with the marriage. And that's what you see in the center and on the top right. So here is a summary. Here is a summary of what Vikalp learned. It may be of use to you also. If you draw a parallel, it may be of use to you. The first one is field test existing communication products. So if you're working for, let's say, Bajaj, or if you're working for Ashok Leyland, or if you're working for Hindustan Lever, field test existing, remove the word communication. How do people on the field respond? I know my friend Shiraman sir was on the field, and he's had a lot of insights from the field. Initial discussion with target audience. It's very important, very critical. Without having spoken to the audience, and if you're trying to take a product to a market, there will be a disconnect. So as a manager and as a leader, at some point in your career, you're going to come across this. I'm not saying that all 8 you're going to come across, but it is worth keeping in your mind. Some of this, you're going to come across it at one point or the other. Drawing session with target audience. This may or may not be immediately relevant. If my designer students are here in this, all this will be very important to them. But if my management students are in this, some of it will be immediately important. Some of it will be important at some point. Integration of rural images into communication media design. Just replace the word rural with urban if it is important to you, and then think about how urban images and communication media comes together. Field test integrated designs for target audience. Again, can be done. Revise as needed, repeat it, final prototype media. So these are some quick pointers for you, lessons from Vikalp, which could be applied. Now, the next one which I want to take you through is a different kind of organization. This is the Calico Museum. Okay, it is a, I would say, we just looked at Vikalp. So it's a different kind of organization. It's a communication-based organization which understands, does research, etc. Calico Museum has a different purpose. I'm going to just pause at the word purpose here, because just like the word sensibilities, just like the word value, the word purpose is very important for both designers, managers, and for management also. Designers and design world and management world, both. purpose of an organization is very critical, because what's the purpose of a museum? Is it just the mundane representation of objects? No. Purpose of a museum is much larger than what you see generally in museums. In museums, you'll see after half an hour, you'll get something called as the museum fatigue. You just get tired, your shoulder starts dropping, you feel dehydrated, you just want to go have a cup of coffee or have a cold drink because you just get bored very fast. But the purpose of a museum is to get people excited with objects, get people excited with history, get people excited with human effort, get people excited with culture, with traditions. That's the purpose of a museum. And this particular museum called Calico Museum achieves that to a great extent. It's world renowned. And I call it as the tactile interaction strategy. The word tactile again has a very interesting overlap between management and design. Tactile for design is touch. Management in management parlance, it's about doing things. So tactile interaction is where the user in the museum gets to see things, gets to touch things, get to experience things at a very on a very first-hand basis. So that's what takes it from a good museum to a great museum. So how do you as an organization go from a good to a great is by having purpose in mind, is by having a strategy in mind, and that's what we will see. That's the fantastic entrance to it. It lives by the values. It's an Indian textile museums. Values it's all about, it's called the ethos of Indian. Again, a very important word of management and design, ethos. Ethos is very critical because if an Indian museum has a very Western appearance, it's going to lose the aesthetics part of it. It's going to lose the appearance. You see a very traditional Indian entrance to it. You'll see what is called an Indian design, Indian motifs. You can see on the left-hand side, you'll see the beautiful entrance to the courtyard, and you'll see elephant and a horse on either side. Beautiful primary colors, typical of traditional Indian design. Again, traditional Indian design usage of elephants. These are for my designer friends who would love to hear these things. Also, the entrance you will see ornated. Ornated is a word, decorated with traditional Indian motifs, and you'll see small pillars. So the reason I'm going through these details is I want even my management students to think about organizations from this perspective. I want my management students to also think about what is an aesthetics of an organization. That's very important. It's not just, it's not just task sheets and task flows and flow charts and balance sheets and things to be done. It's also the aesthetics of an organization is also very critical. I mean, some of you are very young, but I'm sure Shiraman sir and Narayan sir would agree with me that 15, 20 years back when we would enter a typical government building, the first smell we would typically get would be of a urinal. But now, just go to an organization, government organization now, very rarely, or I would say seldom, you will get that kind of smell. So aesthetics of an organization has changed. Government decided that we don't want our places to smell like that. In fact, Bombay airport, when I landed in 2001 from the US, the first smell I got was of the urinal. Right now, if you go to Bombay airport, it's absolutely changed, or any airport for that matter. So aesthetic organization, extremely critical for somebody in management. How does a place look like, feel like, smell like, maybe even taste like? So these are the sensibilities. Again, touching on the word sensibilities here, that organization has to appeal to the sensibilities of the user. So anyway, one quick thing before I move on, that left image, you'll see these small places to sit. You notice that? That's really important. I mean, it's very Indian. If you go to any Indian village, you will see that outside the homes, there are these beautiful, in Kannada, they call it jagli katte. I don't know what it is called in Tamil, but I'm sure there is a name for it. There are these small benches outside a home on which people can sit. And that's what really creates a conversation. So just outside this museum, maybe people who are tired will come and sit here. Maybe they'll have a little bit of conversation. Maybe they'll talk about each other's family. Maybe even strangers will interact. So how does an organization really create an interesting interaction among people? So that's why I said the ethos of this Calico Museum is very interesting because it digs into the Indian values, the Indian cultures, Indian traditions, and Indian aesthetics. In this case, the village traditions of just people having a conversation. Now, a quick thought to all my management students is, in an organization, how do you create a culture? How do you create a culture of conversation? How do you create a culture of a balance between formality and informality? How do you create a culture which is maintaining discipline yet has a sense of ease in getting things done? So that's what becomes really important for an organization. So if you're into HR, if you're into leadership roles, as you get into it, one key thing you have to think about is, how do I create a culture where people can interact very effectively with each other? And much of the times, architecture and design is going to play a very critical role. All you have to do sometimes is just place a couple of chairs. All you have to do is just place a couple of chairs near the water filter, or maybe a couple of chairs near the coffee machine. Whatever, I mean, whatever works for your organization, but it's very important to really think about. Anyway, so just moving on very quickly and concluding on Calico Museum is, of course, it's a great museum. It's in Ahmedabad. You should go see it. You should appreciate textiles and all that. But just summarizing what I've been speaking about, here is the summary. Calico Museum of Textiles discards a sterile atmosphere as well as the fragmented and self-conscious display of conventional museums. That's very important for us to understand. Because we all know, for example, in hospitals, I mean, those who will eventually work for a hospital, let's say a hospital administration, one of the key things is, how do you make a hospital not smell like phenyl? How do you make a hospital not smell like Dettol? You know, how do you make the hospital more friendly? And that's exactly what you're seeing across the world now, especially in India. So same thing even with the museum. The sterility has to go away and it has to become more natural. Again, quickly summarizing, rooted in India's cultural sensibilities. Three features stand out, friends. Three features. Flows like a river. So it has a very organic sense to it. Organic sense. So that's a very important word in design, that a design has to be very organic in the sense, because it's nature. Like I was drawing a tree, because tree is so natural to us, because it's organic, like a river. You know, river is very organic. Doesn't flow like a canal. Canal flows very rigidly. But a river, natural river, will flow organically. Nothing comes with the viewer and the artifact. And finally, no predetermined angles necessary from which to view the displays. So all these are just aesthetics point, but a very important point from both aspects. The third point, Vikalp, communication strategy. Calico Museum, tactility. Now, daily dumb. Now, this is, I can speak from personal experience because this is again a design-led organization. Daily Dump, it's based out of Bangalore, started by a designer. The objective is best out of waste strategy. Now, if you think about what's really going on around, if you have ever tried to grow anything at your home, you will agree with me that after a few days, you need something called as manure. After a few days, your tulsi plant or your rose plant or whatever you're trying to grow will kind of, shrivel away because it is not having any manure. So what will you do? You'll go to the nearest manure, maybe buy some cow dung, maybe buy some goat manure, and you can buy it and get it. Or at the most, you'll take some of your wet waste from the kitchen and put it in your pot. So that becomes recycled. So the idea here is, what do you do with all the waste which comes out of home? Similar to a thing that, what do you do with all that rainwater which falls on your roof? Well, why don't you do rainwater harvesting? What do you do with all the wet waste which comes out of your kitchen? The idea is, you can give waste a fresh perspective. Now, this is a fantastic communication or rather branding which the company has done. But the ethos is very Indian. There's sincerity to it. And I can tell you because I'm using the product and it is working. There is effectiveness to it. I can't come to the product details, but here are some of the taglines. India is dirty because we throw all waste in one bag. And I'm sure you will, I can't hear you, but I'm sure you will agree with me That is how we have generally done things. We will take the tea leaves, we'll put it in the plastic bag, which will have paper, which will have some pencil shavings, which will have some random sheets of paper, and eventually the paper and the plastic will all get wet and it will not be recyclable. So India is dirty because the waste keepers, or rather the people who manage the waste, they're not able to segregate. So how you throw matters. So it's a very important tagline the organization uses to get a person to take action. So giving waste a fresh perspective, you will see that they are into daily dump is into a concept called as composting. So take the wet waste, take the vegetables, take the tea leaves, take the coffee waste, take the fruit peels, take all of that, put it into a pot. But that is not design, no? If we just put everything in one pot, it will smell, it will gather some insects, flies will come. So how do you integrate design into this idea? So I'll come back to this, but I just want to, since I was talking about the product, you can see that there are various composters, but I will specifically talk about the one on your left-hand side, which is called as the khamba. Khamba is nothing but a pillar post. So there are 3 containers to it. It's a very simple concept. Take the wet waste, put it along with some powder and leave it for 30 days and keep adding to it and it will become compost. So that is the big idea. And that compost, if you have no use for it, if you don't have plants at home, go and throw it into the nearest tree which is there. That will also be useful. And I've seen that, I'll give you a personal example. Earlier we used to keep the dustbin at our home under the wash basin. And each time I used to open the door of the wash basin, it used to really smell because, like I said, fruit peels, vegetable peels, everything was in that. And now that smell is gone because I'm using a compost maker. There is no smell and I have a lot of plants. I'm going to use that compost for that. So design with a particular problem really creates a very interesting solution for the market. So I want to use a daily dumps idea to talk about a business plan. Okay. So what makes a stick? What makes a stick is nothing but a good business plan, isn't it? I'm sure you'll agree with me. If an organization is telling that what makes a stick, they're really talking about their business plan. So they say their heroes are gardeners, for example. Why? Because gardeners really understand how to recycle well. They say their heroes are potters because they appreciate how potters really make their things. They appreciate household, like housewives, because they really know how to recycle things. They what makes a stick is also relationship. These spaces in urban spaces, they're also thinking about imagining alternatives. So how can the world be different? What makes a stick is also the Indian context. So we don't touch the dirt because we have a caste problem. We have a problem with dirt because we keep it in a particular space. We don't have that big an infrastructure to take care of our waste. So I just want to bring this to you in front of you so that you understand how organizations really think about what makes them tick in this case. Thinking in whole systems. I just want to bring your attention to the bottom bubble. If you look at it, it says thinking in whole systems. How do I be purposeful? How do I look at things from a big picture point of view? How do I be sustainable? I mean, all these words, we can spend hours on each of these words. Like I've used the word purpose. If you're thinking in whole systems, what is my purpose? Why should I take the initiative of, converting the wet waste into meaningful? But that is thinking in whole systems. If I can do it, my neighbor will do it. My neighbor will do it, society will do it. Society will do it, city will do it. City will do it, country will do it, right? So, but that's how movements really begin. And that's very important. Summarizing, that's how daily dump really works. They believe in these large ideals. They believe in these daily actions. They believe in the power of design, like how the pots work one after the other to create compost. And that's what makes a design-led organization very purposeful, very useful, and also economically sustainable. Right. So I think we are nearing the 1208 mark. So 1210 mark. There is a lot more to do. There is a lot more to think. There's a lot more to study. There's a lot more to reflect. But before I start showing you some more things and some more ideas, I think the gist of it I've already covered in a sense. The gist of it, I hope I have made sense to you. And the summary of it, I have tried to bring you from different angles, from a design angle, from a personal angle. I have tried to do that. Give me the liberty, or rather give me the permission to jump a few slides, and I will take you to one slide, which has, let me say, 3 circles. I just want you to look at 3 specific circles, and then we can think about it. So, Shiraman sir, give me a thumbs up if you can see the 3 circles, please. Yeah, okay, thank you, sir. So, in a sense, I want to get you to think about these 3 circles also. I've been speaking about design, friends. I've been speaking about design, I've been speaking about management, but finally, it has to make sense to you as a management student. It has to make sense to you on as a person who's going to enter the corporate or government or public sector or NGO, wherever you're going to go. It should make sense to you. This 3 circle, I mean, if you think about the top circle, I want to leave some questions in your mind that what are you deeply passionate about? Okay. For you, if you ask me, I would say it's design. It's about education. It's about interacting with youngsters. It's about making an impact. It's about thinking in systems. What am I deeply passionate about? That's about me. What you can be the best in the world? That's also a very important question for you to think about. As if you're an accounts person, are you really the best in balance sheets? Do you understand balance sheets really well? Can you really give people an interesting perspective on balance sheets? If you're a marketing person, can you really speak eloquently and articulately and sincerely so that you're reaching out? If you are a operation person, can you give tasks to flow in such a way that it's really easy for people to understand and also follow? So what you can be best in the world is also something you can think about from a domain perspective. And finally, what drives your economic engine? So this particular circle it's relevant on 2 levels. It's relevant to you on a very personal level. Okay. It's also relevant for you to think about if you start working for Infosys, Cognizant, Ashok Leyland, Birla, wherever, that you can relate these 3 circles from an organization point also. Think about it from an organization point that what is my organization passionate about? What is my organization trying to be the best in the world at? What is the economic engine of my organization? And finally, the kind of interesting intersection between these 3, which will make a lot of sense. Okay, these 3 circles are from the book called as Good to Great. It is by Jim Collins. Very good book. You should all read that. If you're a management student, you must read that. Maybe you've already started to read it. And it gives you very interesting insights about how we can all go from good to great. My argument is we can all go from good to great from a design sense. We can all go from good to great from best practices in management sense. And the best way to do it is a good intersection between design and management. So that's how we can rise as an individual, and that's how we can rise as an individual and also as an organization. Okay. So that is how I would like to really summarize and leave you with some thoughts. And hopefully between things, people, and ideas, you have understood design, that there are various domains of design. And through Vikalp and Daily Dump and Calico Museum, you understood that purpose is very important, intent is important, strategy is important, and a very good design is also very important. I hope you've understood that. And I hope with these 3 circles, you're able to relate that Vikalp is good in what it does because it's deeply passionate about something. Daily Dump is very good because that's what they're trying to be the best in, that is making good compost. And Calico Museum, it's not the economic engine for the Calico Museum, it is the experience, it's what drives the economic engine for Calico Museum. So with this, I would like to conclude my talk, and I wish you all the very best. And of course, I'm open for some questions and looking forward to answering.
Quite interesting, Mr. Sudharshan, with lots of illustrations. Well done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. Let me start with one question. I'm given to understand India doesn't produce enough designers when compared to even small countries like Brazil and so on. Is it right? Because the figure which I have got is we are producing only 5,000 to 6,000 designers in a year, whereas Brazil, which is a very, very small country, it produces around 40,000 designers a year. Is it true?
I'm not sure about the Brazil number, but I would agree with you that India definitely produces lesser numbers as compared to even Singapore or China, and like you said, even probably Brazil. So agree with that fact. Yeah, that's what even I have come across. Yes.
Okay. May I know the reason behind why we are not able to produce more designers?
There are possibly two reasons for this, and I think they're interlinked. If you see India as an era, it is pre-liberalization and post-liberalization.
Okay.
So design colleges which were there in pre-liberalization struggled a lot from the domain of design because design students were not getting enough opportunities to work in sectors because simply the economic engines were not running. It was a lot of jobs are in government. Entrepreneurship was pretty much non-existent. Even entrepreneurship was at a very large scale of the Tatas and the Birlas and the Godrejas. But small sector innovation and design and getting funding from banks, all that started to happen post-liberalization, which is the 90s. So I would say those two reasons were, liberalization is definitely one strong reason why design does not get enough impetus. And I would say the second reason is engineering got morphed as design. So engineers played a role of designers, of what designers were supposed to do, should do, what should have been done. Engineers played that role dominantly from the 90s. And you see whatever entrepreneurial opportunities were there were taken up by engineers, and they have given it their own flavor and style. So whereas other countries kind of created a separate spin for design to really take place, whereas India, that got done through engineers. So those are my thoughts.
Right. We quite often talk about something called a jugaad, which is so specific to a country like India. Have you experienced this kind of jugaad kind of scenario anywhere in other parts of the world?
That's an interesting point. Well, the only part I have been to is the United States. And the word jugaad is called as makeshift in the US. Makeshift purpose. But their tendency to do jugaad work is very less. I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples. If a tap is broken, generally people are very good with hand skills. Generally, I'm saying on a general American scale, at least people of my generation who are in their mid 40s, etc., they are very good with their hand works. If a tap is broken, they would generally fix their own tap or fix their own bulb. But if they happen to call somebody, that person will be I would say, pakka professional. So if they come and do plumbing work, the plumbing work would be done end to end. So he or she will come and fix a pipe, clean out all the water below, remove all the dust below, and clean it up, mop it up, and then go. But on the other hand, which I have seen it, at least in India, the plumber or the electrician who comes and does their work, even though they are a professional, there is still an element of jugaad where instead of using a right size screwdriver, they would approximately use a screwdriver in the sense of a different size and eventually get things done. And the finishing is not very good. So I haven't seen it in the US. And from what I hear from my wife, I have heard it doesn't exist in Japan. But these are countries which have evolved over a period of time. They have come out of the makeshift work and they do good end-to-end work.
Audience, questions please. Of course, the captain is also with us right now, and the captain feels this this Jugaad is widely and extensively practiced in armed forces because they are known for handling the crisis at the earliest. Am I right? So, yeah. Captain, would you like to share your thoughts?
Am I
Okay,
audible?
hello?
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, okay. Yeah, great session. First of all, Mr. Sudarshan,
Thank you, sir.
thanks for taking time out and interacting with our students and the audience.
Pleasure, sir.
As the director was mentioning, because I have in my army service, I have seen many a time our soldiers, officers, they always come out with some jugaad solutions. In fact, we had one Subedar in our unit. We named him as Jugaad Saab only. Everybody call him. Yeah, because he was basically from engineering EME core, where they take care of the workshops and maintenance stuff. So anything you go to him, you will make a immediate, like the way you said, makeshift arrangement, some sort of a thing. They will come out with some solution. I think mostly all the innovations in army come out of such jugaad only, and I think it is picking up. But what other thing what I wanted to share my comment is when director was asking why this design thing or numbers are coming out. Probably as a country, maybe because we're in developing state, the R&D spent by many organizations is very less, sir. Because of that, probably this people getting into design, maybe that is why there may be less takers for that, or maybe the awareness also. Once organization start spending more on R&D perspective, then I think this will go out. That's what my take. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Captain, sir.
Sir, we have one question from Srihari Mohana Krishnan. His question is, as everyone is talking about work from home at present, as designer, what is your take on this? And all IT company have spent a lot of amount in their infrastructure. How is it going to affect the company in future? They will adopt the present work culture or not?
Yeah, so I think one needs to take a look at this from 2 points of view. One is a short-term point and one is a long-term point. So definitely the short-term is affected by the non-availability of a vaccine. And the moment we get a vaccine or some drug which will take care of the current coronavirus spread and the problem, we'll have a solution. Long term is the adaptability point that if a pandemic happens again like this, how efficiently we'll kind of adapt to the situation. So my view is, I think the question, Shiraman, the question was, what is the?
The question was, a lot of IT companies have already spent a lot of money for the infrastructure. So how it is going to affect those companies in the future if they adopt the present working culture like work from home?
Well, I think some leaders have already spoken. I can just have an opinion on this, but leaders like Satya Nadella have already spoken that work from home will be damaging not just for the company, but also for the individual, because there's something called as social capital, which gets built up in an organization. When you start working, it's not just the financial capital, it's also something called social capital. Each organization has a social capital. So it is going to be affected. Companies have spent a lot on infrastructure, but like I said, it depends on how soon we're going to get the vaccine and how soon we're going to start working. The moment we get a vaccine, we pretty much start getting back on the real workspaces instead of virtual workspaces. But having said that, I think companies will now also think about a plan B. Right now, nobody had a plan B. There will be a plan B now, having experienced this once. So while there will be a spending on infrastructure, I don't know if people will continue without a plan B. There will be a plan B when they're going to spend on it.
Sriraman?
Yes, sir.
Revati has got a question. Can we allow her to raise her question?
Yes, sir. I will just allow her, sir.
Revati. Revati, are you there?
I'll just.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
there. She's there, sir.
Ah,
Yeah, I have
yeah.
opened, sir.
Yes. For the students also, you can keep it open. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Very well,
Yeah.
Revati. How are you?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you all for this wonderful session. Thank you, Mr. Pandurang. And I've been a eavesdropper, I think, on most of DJ Emmy's sessions, and they are fantastic. But I should tell you that the quality of the session is very good. It was very comfortable. One of the best webinars I've attended in terms of the quality of presentation and also the technical support. My question, Mr. Pandurang, is this. Rapid innovation is now. One moment, I'm not able to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this age of rapid innovation. What happens is we are moving at the rate we are innovating. There's so much of technology is becoming obsolete. So what happens? That means the design gets broken down to its basic function, and then we readapt from that, because I do a lot of upcycling with wood and all that. So I'm interested in what happens, because in terms of innovation, if we are going to invest a lot in designing a new product, and with the rapid changes that are coming, what happens to all this? That in order, it's going to affect our R&D costs also. So how do you perceive this?
Which hat do you want me to wear, Revati ma'am? Which hat? That's important.
Oh yeah, okay. No, as a business, from a business perspective, like you said, COVID also, it's going to bring in a lot of changes in a business process. So what do we do with all the stuff that we have already invested in? And in terms of design of, say, even a product, so you break it down to its basic functionality and rebuild, or you just start modifying it?
Yeah, I think I was recently listening to the economist, a chief, former advisor, Raghuram Rajan, and one of the takeaways which I had was when I was listening to him is organizations and businesses, and even perhaps as large as social systems, need to rethink on how they're going to be doing things. So I really don't know to answer that in specific, because, for example, we've just seen an emergence of the PPE, right? The personal protective equipment industry, which is now a 10,000 crore industry suddenly. Like it has emerged from nowhere into a 10,000 crore industry. How does somebody like, let's say, a car manufacturer adopt to this current situation? How does somebody like who is, let's say, an Alstom, which was predominantly into urban mass transport systems? So I'm not an expert to give you a very specific answer whether products should be redesigned completely, because I don't have a complete nitty-gritty view of things. But a general view would be is, as an organization, we would need to rethink about what the purpose is. But will it be financially be viable or not? I'm not really sure. Will the government come to the support of the organization to avoid bankruptcy or to avoid complete loss of jobs? I'm not really sure. So I think I'll have to think about that question and then maybe take it offline. I really don't know.
No, not a problem. But what your presentation, it helped me to think about things in a different perspective. Like even, thinking about the garbage segregation and things like it. And it's given us a different perspective on things. I'm very happy that I was able to listen in. Thank you so much, Mr. Pandurang.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Sudharshan, are there any path-breaking designs from India which have revolutionized the entire world, kind of?
I would say in the modern era,
Okay.
I mean, it again depends on how we define design. I mean,
Okay.
I don't want to be restricted in terms of, let's say, you know, a product like an iPhone or
Okay.
an app, you know, like a desktop computer like a Microsoft or an IBM computer. But if I expand my definition of design in the sense of which has a plan and which is enabling me to get things done,
Okay.
then India definitely has contributed a lot. I mean, if you think, but you just need to expand the definition of design. But if you keep it narrow in terms of a consumer product, then it becomes a bit tricky. I mean, you don't get world sweeping. For example, I'll just give you a quick example. Yesterday, I was searching for the first Indian radio, manufactured radio, and I just couldn't get any Google search result on it.
Oh, okay.
Then I searched for, I know that India had a JK TV, which was valve system, but it could have been imported. So on a consumer goods, the Western Europe and Americas have really taken a lead. But if you expand the sense of design, then of course you get into things like, you know, get into a lot more abstract things like mathematics and sciences and philosophy, which is also, which is actually there are three orders of design. There is order 1, order 2, and order 3. And when you look at order 3, it's more at an idea level, like how Gandhi picked up grain of salt and said, here is a satyagraha. It's a sense of defiance. So that is design if you think about it, but it's at an idea level.
Yes.
But at a lower level, which is order 1, you don't get immediate examples. I need to think a little bit.
Okay. At the things level, am I right?
At the things level, yes.
Right.
Maybe nano could have become one.
Okay. Possibly.
I'm not really sure.
Another question. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Revati.
No, please.
Please, ma'am. Please ask.
This also touches on Professor Narayanan's query at the initial beginning of the presentation on designers in India. This may be, I'm not just talking about a product, but when you're talking about across process, people, and all that, is it because of what you call an innovation culture is lacking in India?
Yeah, I think it ties in with both what I said and Captain Sir was saying, that R&D funding and culture of innovation. And if I were to dig one more level deeper, I would say also ability to tolerate failure. So I think that is something which many organizations are increasingly saying now, but not necessarily believe in, that we should tolerate failure, we should fail fast, and we should be okay with failure. But there are no checks and measures, there are no systems in place to really look at failures systemically, to look at failures as let's say KRA, key result areas for an employee. So if you integrate that, like how some of the leading organizations have done, then I think we have a road ahead. Otherwise, I think we'll be just doing lip service to innovation, because we all know genuinely that without failures, there is no innovation. But if you're as an organization intolerant to failures, then we're never going to really have that. So
I think that's a very, very valid point, this tolerance of failures. It's a very valid point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir, we have one more question from Vivekanandan. He asks, can we say if Jugaad becomes more organized in India, it is reverse innovation? And importantly, design thinking can flourish in a country like India, like building some world-class products for India.
Yeah, so I think it's, instead of a question, I think it's more of I would say Vivekananda's question is more of a statement. And all these points are correct. So India is, I would say India, instead of questioning, is it flourishing? It is flourishing in many ways. And Jugaad is already happening. I don't know why it should be called reverse innovation. I think it should just be called innovation. I'm not really sure if I should confuse myself by calling it reverse innovation. Let's just call it innovation. But I agree with the point of Vivekananda by saying that if it is structured and organized and if little more thought is given to that process, then we can refine it. Then we can make it more universal. We can make it more robust. We can make it more user friendly and all of that. Like for example, that bottle which is stuck under the chair. How do you make that? How do you make that robust? Well, we can make it robust by having a contraption where where you can design a product which has, let's say, I'm just thinking on the fly here, which can adapt to its length. So it is like some kind of a car jack, but it is of a proportion where you can change the height of it. So if you have something like that, maybe you can have a jack which can be used at home, which you can prop it under a thing, which you can, maybe it could be a chair, it could be a cylinder, it could be a sofa, or it could be a bed. But you could do it in such a way that the jack doesn't look awkward. It is aesthetic. Okay, let me show you a very quick example to this. I have it in my slides. I think, do we have a couple of minutes, Sriram sir? Do we have 2 minutes?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So I just want to show you very quickly this, how an ancient clay water bottle became a contemporary lamp. So I'm not saying that, I'll just show you the quick adaptation of this. This is called the surahi. Surahi used to be water bottles for hunters, because both the hands need to be free. I think the hunter would put the water bottle along the shoulder here and maybe sip whenever wanted and go on with it. But now there is no use to it. But what if you apply systematic processes to this particular craft? And in no ways I'm calling craft as jugaad. I'm just saying that how craft can be adopted as an innovation to a very contemporary product. So I'm just going to run through quickly. So this is a quick bit of craft-based mass manufacturing. So there you go, it's being baked. There you go, it's being dried, and it is being perhaps painted. And yeah, so now you have the original surahi, and you also have on the right-hand side something called as the LED lights placed within it. So a tubular lamp. Now here is a classic example of what was a quick solution, or rather a thought-out solution for a water, can be used as an innovation for a contemporary use as a as a tubular lamp. So this serves as a lamp, and that's also serving as a particular purpose. So it's I wouldn't say it's a perfect answer to the question, but I would say if we dig into our history, if we dig into our crafts, then we will know how to innovate with that to make more contemporary uses of it. And that will also enable our village people to get employment, and they will get, they'll get their finances, and we'll also get products from them. So it is more, so India will flourish that particular way if you really dig into Indian crafts and Indian traditions and innovate on it. So that could be a sort of answer to Vivekananda's question.
Thank you, sir. And we have one more question from Dr. S.D. Prabhu. What about alternate role of designers in small organizations? Will any outsourcing options will be available?
I think probably there are two questions in that. One is, do small organizations have designers, and are organizations outsourcing design? Are there two questions in that? I'm just wondering. If there are two questions in that.
Yeah, seems to be.
So India as a country, if you just see nationally, there are majority of the organizations don't have an in-house designer, and that's where the demand is also coming from. Design schools are coming up across the country to exactly meet this need, so that at the board level, between the founders and the investor, maybe there could be a designer. He or she could be sitting in the boardroom. So if that is happening, then the organization has a strategy has a product which is sustainable, aesthetic, and meaningful, that could be at an in-house level. And as far as outsourcing goes, that anyway is being done. There are companies always outsourcing either their marketing collateral work or their product design work. Yeah, I mean, it's happening all the time. So I'm not sure if I have articulately answered that, but probably my former part to the answer is more relevant there, where there is a need, which is being filled up by the sprouting design schools. And the final idea should be, in my belief at least, that the designers should be sitting at the table in the boardroom discussions so that we are making meaningful things.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Dr. Deepa, you have unmuted. If you have a question, you can ask.
Hello.
Yeah, you're audible, ma'am.
Yeah. No, it's not a question. When I was looking at that Surahi, it just came to my mind that not only as a lamp, it could be a wonderful design for a jewelry too, a ring with a chumka in the bottom. That just came to my mind.
Very
It
interesting.
was a
Point,
fantastic session, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deepa. Siddharth, you have unmuted. You can ask.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, may I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. You please ask.
Sir, what are the benefits of a culture that encourages creativity and innovation?
I think it's a self-answered question. There are tremendous benefits. Tremendous benefits in a culture which increases or encourages innovation and creativity. I think that's what you asked,
Yes.
right? So benefits could be is you coming up with better things than a competitor. You are coming up with more sustainable things from a competitor. Benefits could also be that you have more loyal customers. Benefit, of course, could be is your employees are happier. They're more loyal to you. They stay longer with you. You get better return on investment on all the things which you do, because without investing on the employees, you're not going to get creativity and innovation. So it will work both ways. The more you invest on them, the more they will give you better returns. And yeah, I mean, there are tremendous number of benefits for society, for individual. And yeah, I think somebody famous said that is that if you spend a lot of person training somebody, and if somebody leaves, there is a danger. But the contradiction to that is if you don't spend anybody, then you're going to have an ineffective person in the organizations. I think the saying goes something like that. So it is better to spend and have that person contribute and then maybe leave, because they'll anyway be useful, rather than not have that at all. So there are benefits from multiple angles to that.
Thank you, sir.
Sir. Lokeshwaran,
Sudharshan.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Sudharshan, I'm very happy that you talked about Jim Collins, that book From Good to Great. We often discuss about that book in the strategy class.
Yes,
And, you know, just staying good is what stops us from becoming great. And
Yes,
it's also a wonderful piece of advice to students and for all of us, that we just not, you know, try to stay good. We can always be great also by taking up
yes,
better things in life or moving up in the ladder.
yes, ma'am.
Great from you,
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Lokeshwaran, you can ask. You're unmuted.
Sir, I'm Lokeshwaran from BJ Academy. Nice to hear you, sir.
Thank you.
I have one question. What is your opinion on reverse engineering? Because the country like China is making huge amount from it.
I've not really read much into it. My honest answer is I don't know enough. I really don't have a very good understanding of the subject of what it really achieves and it does. by taking things apart and trying to build something, if that is what reverse engineering means, I don't know well enough to give you a good answer. But maybe in the next session, I forgot your name. Sorry, what's your name?
Lokeshwaran.
Lokesh. Lokesh, in the next session, if I get a chance, I'll definitely answer that. Let me think about it and come back to you. In the meanwhile, let me also look up. Yeah, you should also do so. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sudharshan. Of course, 1 hour 40 minutes. Thank you very much. It has gone very well. And shall I request one of my students to propose the formal vote of thanks to Mr. Sudharshan? Yes, Arun, you have any other questions?
No, sir. We have no questions.
Right.
We can proceed, sir.
Right.
I sincerely thank Mr. Sudharshan Pandurang for gracing this session with his intensive and interesting speech. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to our director, Dr. AGV Narayanan, Chief Executive Captain Sendil Kumar, faculty members, students of DJIME, and participants from various other institutions for their active participation throughout the session. Once again, I thank one and all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sudharshan, for taking your time out.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure all mine. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
We will get back to you with the feedback from the participants.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice of you. Bye-bye.